If you want a Bluetooth surround sound speaker that is portable, splittable, and has booming audio quality, all for a big discount, stick around at the end of the show because I've got a promo code just for you. One of the most critical skills a quarterback can master is knowing when and how to be aggressive. The deep ball is an art form in its own right, obviously, and any passer that can efficiently attack down the field typically puts up a lot of points and wins a lot of games. But what happens if a quarterback has a lot of the skills necessary to be a good deep ball thrower, except the most important one of all: confidence? Broncos second-year quarterback Drew Lock has left me trying to answer that very question, because he has most of the qualities that any team would look for. He's got size, mobility, arm strength, decent pocket presence, and honestly some pretty good ball placement overall. But as a rookie, in my opinion, the most important thing he lacked was the confidence to be aggressive. In the 2019 season, throughout his admittedly small sample size of only 5 starts, Lock only averaged 2.2 throws per game that went more than 20 yards down the field. That's extremely low and placed him 39th among all NFL quarterbacks. On a per attempt basis instead of per game, his average proportion of deep throws was even lower at just 7% of all attempts. For reference, that was 42nd in the NFL. And those low aggression metrics were even more surprising because Lock was 13th in the league in play action percentage, which is usually accompanied by a much higher rate of deep passing attempts. Lock just flat out did not want to throw deep, even when he had plenty of opportunities to do so, and by the end of the season, particularly in the Lions and Raiders games, it almost seemed like he lost all of his confidence to attack down the field compared to his first few starts against the Chargers, Texans, and Chiefs. In fact, I went back and watched all of his starts again in order to try to figure out exactly why he started out so hot, only to finish so, safe. And to me, Lock's timidness late in the season was really because of two things. A, his overall chemistry with his receivers was mostly awful and he didn't really trust them. And B, he often struggled to see hang defenders undercutting his receivers in coverage. And because of that problem, I think a few really close calls on near interceptions kind of spooked him out of throwing deep. I'll show this play against Houston as an example because, again, this lack of seeing hang defenders was kind of a general theme with him. This was on 1st and 10 from Denver's 20-yard line, and the offensive coordinator at the time, Rich Scangarello, dialed up a concept known in that system as chase. Now, it gets that name because of this route here from Courtland Sutton that's called a chase route in Shanahan terminology, and it's basically just a double move with an inside stem that gets flattened down to a deep out route at about a 17-yard depth. You saw Julio run this a lot under Shanahan in Atlanta, Andre Johnson in Houston, Pierre Garçon in DC. I mean, basically every ex-receiver that's ever played in this style of offense has run this route a lot. And sometimes it's paired up with what Shanahan disciples call a high cross from the number 2, like what Tim Patrick is running on this particular play. What this route combo does between the number 1 and the number 2 is it puts the free safety in a conflict between giving the outside corner help on a potential deep post to the inside, or jumping the high cross from the number 2 receiver and helping out that slot corner instead. The safety can only do one of those things after all, and this play makes him choose to leave one of these corners by themselves. Plus, because both tight ends are on the boundary side of the field and both receivers are on the wide side of the field, the defense is giving away that they're in man coverage just because of their alignment in having both corners match both receivers while the safeties and linebackers match on the tight ends. That's one of the oldest man coverage indicators in the book. So, before this ball is even snapped, Lock knows that he's got man coverage, he knows that he's got a single high safety already in conflict, and he knows that all he has to do is just read which way that safety is leaning to determine where to throw the ball. It's a fairly simple concept for him to read, so after the snap, when Lock reached the top of his drop and he saw that safety let the high cross go without jumping it, he knew that he had to throw it to that number 2 receiver. But what Drew Lock did not anticipate here, because obviously he's a rookie and rookies generally don't look for this kind of stuff, is that even though it is man coverage, and even though Tim Patrick is one-on-one here with no safety help over the top, there's still another safety on the field, Tashaun Gipson, who has nobody to cover man-to-man at all because both tight ends stayed in pass protection. Since Gipson has nobody to cover, he now has the freedom to use what's called a robot technique to pivot and haul ass back deep to rob anything coming his way from the other side of the field. Locke never saw Gibson coming because he just assumed that he was going to stay down low with the tight ends, and he's very, very lucky that this ball wasn't picked off. This was a big disaster narrowly avoided, and I truly think that this was the play that made Locke realize that even against man coverage looks from this defense, there can still be hanged defenders waiting to rob him blind at any moment. I honestly think he got spooked right then and there because he knew that he didn't really know what he was looking at on the field yet, and those fears of making bad reads and turning the ball over heavily contributed to his change in play style. Which, I mean, to be fair, he was right. Locke didn't know what he was looking at, and he got away with some throws that he really should not have, so I credit him for at least acknowledging that and just trying to protect the ball. But like I said, in his quest to not make rookie mistakes, he made other mistakes in my opinion by not throwing some balls that I think he really could have and should have attempted. Plus, not only that, but in addition to being scared to throw picks, I also think that Locke really struggled to get on the same page with his receivers in the first place, and that lack of trust in them contributed to his lack of trust in himself. The KC game was a prime example of that, where he was even struggling to develop timing with Courtland Sutton. Time and time again, you would see Locke try to throw back shoulder to Sutton at a certain depth when he read stack technique from cornerbacks, which is what he's supposed to do by the way, only for Sutton to then keep running and not snap off the route at the landmark that Locke expected him to. And you know, in real time, incompletions like those just look like Locke was missing his guys wildly, but if you pay attention, he's really not. These kinds of plays are all about timing and communication and leverage, but there was no timing or communication. Locke was consistently throwing to spots that he expected his receivers to work to against certain coverages or techniques, but they almost never did, and it cost them a lot of yards against the Chiefs early in that game. It really wasn't until the second half when we finally started to see that timing develop between Locke and Sutton, but by then the Broncos were already down by a lot of points, and against a team like the Chiefs, in Arrowhead of all places, in a blizzard, once you're down by 20, there's not a whole lot you can do about it to come back. Truth be told, in my opinion, that game was the final straw that affected Locke for the rest of the season. He was pressured into making some really dumb throws that he shouldn't have made because he was trying to be a hero, he had no communication with his receivers, and in general, it was just a really bad performance from the offense. From then on out, he played extremely safe because he didn't want to make those mistakes again, just like the almost mistakes he made against Houston, and even though Denver started to win some games, that cautiousness is something that I think was holding Locke back in his development more than it was helping him. That's really frustrating to me because John Elway and Vic Fangio saw glimpses of what Locke was before he became ultra conservative. They saw the crazy arm talent, the pocket presence, the ball placement. He was genuinely really good. I should know, I'm a Texans fan. I had to sit through watching him tear our asses up before the first half in that game was even over. There's something there, even if Locke decided to go dormant with it for most of his rookie campaign, but it's still in there somewhere. We all saw it. I don't know for sure if we're going to see Locke become as aggressive as I want him to be in year 2, because at the end of the day, he still hasn't had a lot of time to get chemistry with his receivers, he's still trying to learn yet another new system under a new offensive coordinator, and he still doesn't know what he doesn't know in terms of reading defenses, so all of his main issues kind of haven't been fixed yet. But even with all of that, I still really hope we get to see a new, more aggressive version of Locke in 2020. Will he inevitably make some mistakes as he gets more comfortable with being a gunslinger? I mean, sure, and those mistakes are probably gonna suck, just like they did against Kansas City, but at least he'll still be taking those shots, and that in itself is progress. 2020 is a huge learning opportunity for Drew Lock, and it could set the stage for the next decade of contention for an otherwise loaded Broncos roster. To me, the goal here this season is obvious, and that's because this is probably going to be a lost year for everyone. This virus has completely ruined the offseason program, and every team is probably going to be extremely sloppy for the first couple of months, including Denver. Under these weird, once-in-a-century circumstances where everyone kind of gets a bit of a free pass, Drew might as well just start testing himself and see what happens. Best case scenario, he figures it all out and becomes one of the best picks John Elway has ever made. Worst case, he learns that NFL safeties are kind of fast and that he shouldn't mess with them. Either way, he benefits from learning, so there's really no downside here. Locke is going to make some terribly misguided throws. That's just inevitable at this point, and he's definitely going to lose some games because of it. But I'm okay with that because sometimes part of the journey of becoming a good quarterback is first figuring out how to not be a bad one. Now, I'm not advocating that Locke walk out on the field and YOLO himself out of a job Jameis Winston style, but I am advocating for this. If the Broncos are going to go down in whatever weird season this turns out to be, in my opinion, there's really only one good way to go down: swinging. Thank you for watching this week's episode, and of course thank you to our sponsor for the week, Kove Audio. You may remember Kove making a few appearances on this channel before with their excellent commuter Bluetooth speaker, and they're back now again with a new and improved version of that speaker, the Commuter 2.0. The new commuter still has the same booming audio quality as the last version. It can still connect to any smartphone, tablet, or Bluetooth-enabled desktop or laptop. It still has a range of 32 feet to play from whatever device you connect it to, and it still has that long-lasting 7-hour battery life on only a single charge. But what's really great about this one is that Kove has re-engineered the Commuter 2.0 to be able to split into two separate speakers that you can put anywhere you want. That means if you want a true surround sound effect, you can put one speaker on one side of the room and the other speaker opposite of it, or maybe each speaker in multiple different rooms for more ambient sound around your home, or in different areas of your yard as you're working out back, or even in your bathroom as you're getting ready in the morning. I mean, you could do whatever you want with it, but having that flexibility of being able to get two speakers in one is really awesome, and I've definitely enjoyed using it around my house ever since Kove sent me one just before it launched. If you are also in the market for a Bluetooth speaker that is not only great quality, but also really versatile, Kove is hooking up every single film room viewer that is interested in trying it out with a 65% discount code on the Commuter 2.0, bringing that price all the way down to $70. Again, that is a $130 discount just for using my promo code BK65 at the link in the description below. And I've used Kove speakers myself for literally 2 years now, and I continue to advertise for them because I genuinely love the product. So I recommend you give them a chance yourself because I don't think you're going to regret it. Again, if you're interested in this, if you want a Bluetooth speaker, hit that promo code BK65, check out Kove at the link below, and go get that discount.